Welcome everyone to the nightly Q&A for the 2021 Blood in the Snow Film Festival presented by Superchannel. I'm your host Rob Bellamy and I am here with Carolyn from Blood in the Snow. And you can hear this show and many others at www.bitsradio.ca. But for tonight, we are Bits TV and we are here with some people from the amazing film Don't Say Its Name. If I could get you guys to introduce yourself, please.
Hi there, my name is Sarah Lise MacArthur, and I am one of the actresses. I play Stacy.
Hi, my name is Ruben Martel. I'm the writer and director of Don't Say Its Name.
Excellent. Guys, thanks so much for being here. Congratulations on being in the festival.
Thanks.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Ruben, I'm going to start with you if you don't mind. Where did it come from? Is this your first feature film?
Yes. It just came from an exercise. Like somebody had tossed out the idea of because I was trying to get for a really long time trying to get a native love story made, and it just wasn't hitting the right checklists of how to get a movie made. And somebody said just write a horror film. You seem to have a mind for it, and wrote one. And the whole time I had Sarah Lise was like, yeah, you're gonna be in it, and then it got to the point where I got a phone call out of the blue, and somebody had asked me if I wanted to direct another film. I was like, sure. And then I got a call about a couple hours later, said, oh well, we solved the problem. So it was just like a disruptive director at the point. And they said, but do you have a script? And I said, yeah, I got one sitting here. So I sent it off. And a week later, I was signing the option agreement. And you want to direct it? And I was like, yeah, of course. Who wouldn't want to, And that was it. That was that quick.
That's impressive. That's a lot of faith for a first-time director.
Yeah, that was what was happening for the entire year. Is okay, so you don't have anything to show. You don't have basically all your stuff is AD work or PA or other stuff, just little things. And it's that doesn't really strike confidence as a director. Nobody's going to want to throw money at you. So I had to do all these little hoops and jump over these little hurdles. And at the end of the day, they just said let's make this movie, and I was like, yes, okay. I didn't know what the protocol was. So then all of a sudden here I am talking to you, and it's craziness.
Well, that's awesome. And I got to congratulate you for a first time.
Thank you.
Usually the biggest screw up in a first time filmmaker is audio, because no one thinks about how important it is as a first time filmmaker. But the audio in your film was amazing.
The weird thing was the audio guy came up to me first day and he's like, do you scream? And I was like, no. Do you want me to? I could if you want me to. Is that the norm? And he's like, usually, but if you don't yell over the audio or you don't yell at the actors, that'd be really great. And I was like, yeah, I don't see a problem there. And that was I guess that's why the audio's great.
Yeah, it's funny. We didn't do any we didn't even do any ADR. I didn't.
Nobody did.
No. Oh, yeah, wow. It wasn't in the budget.
That's impressive too. Mm-hmm. Oh wow.
No ADR.
So the script idea, where did that come from?
I guess it was something I've always thought of as a kid, this what I've been the real story behind it was I went to a sweat lodge when I was 11, and it was October 13th, 1988, because I remember that day because it was just nuts. It was crazy. I think it's the only day I remember. Anyways, we were in the sweat lodge for 2 rounds, and it's very hot. The 3rd round came, and they brought this kid in, and he was very he was just really anxious and really kind of didn't want to be there, and there's just something weird about him. It wasn't something crazy. It wasn't possession. It wasn't something. It was just he was just anxious, and he came in, and it became cold. The whole sweat lodge became cold, and he was crying, and he just couldn't get any warmth in his body, and he just cried and just wanted to get out. He just couldn't. There's nothing he could do to get warm. And it was just, and as a kid, you're watching this happen, and once he left, everything became warm again, and it was just like there's something beyond. Like, it was just that moment where you just knew there was something more to this world, and it's just something you really can't shake from me, because it was just that defining thing that there's more to life. However you see it, there's just so much more to just than just us. It was, yeah, that's kind of where it came from.
Yeah, something like that would stick with you, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
but there's like so many more other things that happened, like ghost sightings, and going to residential school and seeing little kids, like with a group of we went to this one residential school outside of Regina, and we were trying to get in, and we are coming back from an Iron Maiden concert in Winnipeg, and it just so happened like there was a group of 10 University of Regina students coming there to kind of like look at it, basically kind of like a geology assignment. And we got in there and we seen a bunch of things as a group, and it was just crazy. Little kids, little apparitions. It was nuts.
Oh, wow. See, you could write a movie just on that alone.
Well, yeah. Well, that's what I tell people. Like, what really surprises me is that any kind of like as a native person in Canada, it's like a lot of things that we live through is not. It's not rainbows. It's not nice. It's like we don't live PG-13 lives. It's just there's so much horror, and people wonder, like, I keep just writing about the native experience, and people think I'm writing horror. No, I'm writing the native experience, and that's just how people take it. That's just how our lives are.
Well, Sarah Lise, let me ask you then. When you first read this script, what was in your head especially about your character Stacy?
Well, I love the script, and I've seen it through various incarnations because, we had a limited budget, and some of Ruben's original plan wasn't able to be realized. But so in that way, I was able to really absorb the story and the character for quite a while, like for a couple of years. And Stacy was just the most like badass bee I've ever read as a female character, and I couldn't wait to play her. And it's like one of those things where your friend tells you like, oh, I want you to play this part, but there's so many things that could happen. The producer could want someone else, or they could change the role completely. And this role stayed pretty much the same. The essence of her was the same from the beginning, from when Ruben first imagined her and he was telling me about her, and it was really exciting. So I didn't want to get too excited because I was like, there's still a chance it might not happen. But in the meantime, it was pretty great to have this like thought in my mind about preparing for this role, because I did different things like go to gun ranges and try different types of firearms, and I went target shooting with Ruben on the res back in Saskatchewan when I was visiting there. And we would just, every time that we would hang out, like we'd talk about the part and different comparisons he had. And so I could really get into the mind of the character.
That is excellent. That's in-depth character development there.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Mm-hmm,
Every
totally.
chance you can get, like any chance I can get to fire a weapon is like nice. Yeah, because that was completely right. I mean, like I think Stacy's character stayed the same. Like we had Gerald Wexler come on and did a rewrite. Kind of went from like a 80s popcorn horror film to kind of like a slow burn thriller, and it was kind of like in his wheelhouse to change it to just to fit the budget basically, and did a good job.
Yeah, budget rewrites are always fun, aren't they?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I just hope that by chance we get the sequel and we could make the original script, because the original script was just, it's nuts. There was a reason
a
why.
lot of stuff happening in it. It was like, way more stuff would be happening on screen.
Yeah, because like there was Yeah, no, it's totally crazy. I mean, there was a reason why they got behind the script, and the reason why they were like, okay, this guy, we get to get him to direct, is because that was just so. I don't know. I still love the original script, and I like what Don't Say Its Name turned into, but I'd love to do the original script. It was just crazy.
Well, and that's the thing too. You get a script, especially when it's your own, and there is so much that goes into it that you hate to see anything cut out. So I always love to ask this question because it brings out a lot. But with what you shot, like not your original script, but with what your shooting script was there anything that didn't make it into the edit that you wished had?
Yeah, there was. I mean, there was quite a bit actually. Like, I mean, it's not going to be spoiler, is it? Like, actually, it wouldn't be a spoiler. There
No,
was more. There was a scene between our elder Carson and the main character. Well, one of the characters, Karis, where they argued between each other, and it kind of like it was cut for time. Like, it was just one of those things that would have brought everything together. It would have just been. It would have just had more of an emotional impact because of like the disagreement and like being pro mining and being anti mining and having that conversation and really getting into it. And then I was recently reminded that there was a scene between Stacy and the cafe owner where they're just sitting around talking. That there's a whole like 5 minute scene that was totally cut out, and I was like, wait a minute, there was. The actress just reminded me at the Calgary International. I was like, wait a minute, there was. And we're all standing there, there's a producer, the DOP, and the actress, and they're like, I forgot about that scene. It was just something that was cut out that would have been, for me, it would have been better because it explained Stacy more. Like Stacy just doesn't is just basically just a badass throughout, and it was just one of those. It was just that scene where she could be softer because she does have a really kind of emotional scene, but that doesn't it doesn't bring down her toughness at all. But there was there was some stuff that
Yeah,
was
that, and then I think some of the, like when Karis jumped on Carson, like
yeah
just because of the way we ended up showing it and not showing the monster, so we wouldn't know, like Stacy wouldn't know what it was necessarily, and the audience wouldn't know. Like you couldn't show it at that moment, but she was like, "Oh man, like I tackled him." It was like he cut it.
yeah tackled him in -53 weather. It was nuts, and I think it was like right at magic hour, and it's like, okay, we got 12 minutes to shoot this, and I was like, okay, and then it just didn't. Yeah, I think the whole film felt like magic hour, and we had 12 more minutes to shoot. It was just like rush,
Basically.
rush, rush, rush.
Oh man,
Yeah.
Carolyn, did you have any questions?
Yeah, Ruben, I really loved how you combined like cultural beliefs, and a lot of times people have like the best intentions, but they'll throw in their cultural beliefs, and it kind of seems tropey. But
Mhm.
here, it's so natural. It's so natural, and my favorite scene actually is towards the end where Stacy and Betty like kind of he's like,
Seriously.
well, talking to the cop, and they're like, well, he's like, well, what happened here? And like, oh, we figured it out. And then they ask him what happened to the oil guy in the police car, and he's like, oh, he tripped on his way to the car. And it just that people are kind of covering up because the indigenous women know that the white cop is not going to quite get it, and then
Mhm.
he knows that they're not going to quite like the fact that he kind of used his own force. So I just
Yeah.
love how you created that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I think it's always like I said, it was always been like my own experiences of just dealing in these situations like where it's like you speak like everything's so underlying with like especially in native country it's like you you hide most of it just so it has like a good shine to it. And it was just
Mm-hmm.
that point like where she takes like Stacy, like to me, I always felt that she was like a person that she wanted to be away from people. Like she gets along with like with animals more because there's a primal thing to her that where she's like I mean at the end of the day, she's a killer. And it was just something that where she would be speaking in speaking to him in a way that he would understand, and kind of like, and he would be speaking to her in a way that she would understand. Like, it's almost like there's this gray area where, because you see it throughout the film that the cop thinks she's batshit crazy. Oh, she's crazy.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and
No,
you
that's
and you yeah, and it just played to that, like where she's standing there. I mean, she's got all over her face, and then it's just
Yeah.
like and he's kind of looking at her like, okay, like she's in her element, so he has to talk to her in a way that she would understand.
And Sarah, at least you did like such an amazing job as Stacy. Like you covered everything.
you.
Like she's a war vet, and like there's PTSD there, and like there's all these like little nuances, but yet you still kind of you stand up to the threat, and you just take charge. And I really loved how you portrayed her.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it's one of those things that it's a dream role. Like there aren't very many characters written like this that female actors can play. And so I was like, I got to take full advantage of this opportunity and just have fun with it, you know? And that has been like such an awesome thing to, like, I'm just glad that it's out there now. And I'm excited to see if I get to play more stuff like that.
So,
I hope so.
now that it's out there, you said, was this something that you guys were kind of keeping under wraps until it was released?
Sorry. Something's popping up on one of my things.
Oh, okay. Well, no,
Can you hear it?
Nope.
Okay, that's good.
No, you had mentioned that you said now that it's out there, you can finally discuss it. Were you trying to keep the movie kind of under wraps until it came out in the festivals and stuff?
Yeah, we were we were told not to say any details about the monster. Like we weren't allowed to show any photos of her, and then the release information is kind of like slowly being teased out. So yeah, it's not like it was a secret, but we just didn't know when it was going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Actually,
So
the weirdest. Well, the weird thing I was going to mention too is that at Calgary International, there was a group of young kids that couldn't come in because like one of them wasn't vaccinated, and I was like, man, you guys gonna come and see the movie? And they're like, no. And they started explaining to me, looking at me as like I was weird. And I was like, oh yeah. It was like, no, we wanted to see this film. Don't say its name. And I was like, oh, that sucks. I wish you really could see it. And we started having this whole conversation about what it was about. And they knew, like they knew about the film, and they knew like plot points. And I was like, well, how do you know this? And they said, well, you just gotta see, like you just have to see some of the things that are popping up. Like don't say its name. In native country, you don't, the creature in the film, you don't say its name. And that's just a dead giveaway. Like that's just a dead giveaway to anything. But like that was the one thing that I was like, and I said, okay, yeah, no, I never thought about that. And he's like, well, who are you? And I was like, oh, I wrote and directed it. And then they're like, so they just had all these questions for me. And so I stood out there, I was standing out there talking to them for about 20 minutes and just talking their ears off. And oh yeah, I gotta go introduce the film. So I had to leave. But no, it was just something where it was just something, I guess it's something that's out there. If like you can read between the lines, you just know. Yeah.
And it was nice when we just did we did a virtual live Q&A at the Rio Cinema in Vancouver for Truth and Reconciliation Day. And I wasn't really sure what to expect, but they had us projected up after the movie and we could hear the audience, and it wasn't that quite the same as being at a live film festival, but it was pretty good. Like I was like, whoa, I actually got to interact with the fans and feel their reaction and their response, and it seemed like people really enjoyed it. So that, that's always a good thing.
Everybody at home, thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you stay watching some more of us here on Superchannel because we've got lots more to bring you. But stick around. If you want to hear more of this, we'll be at the podcast, bitsradio.ca, because I'm about to ask them what it's like filming in the winter. Thank you, everybody, and stay tuned.
Thank you.
There we go. We are good now. Now, anybody listening to the podcast is going to get a peek behind the curtain because I got a message from Kelly in 20 minutes. So
Oh,
now we're in
perfect.
podcast territory. Yes.
Great.
Yeah, podcasts.
I have
Behind the
a
scenes.
burning question. I have a burning question. Okay, Ruben.
Okay.
So I tend to feel a little bit sorry for the monster or the creature, or and I felt for Karis. I really felt for her because she was fighting for her land, right? The land that she's from. And she ended up being like a monster. So I don't know, were we supposed to feel like sympathetic towards her? Or was like I just felt so bad for her. I'm like, oh, she got run down, and then she's like, now she's this ghost going after people. And
Well, how, like, a lot of people like that I've talked to, like, I've always mentioned that I always seen Karis as the hero, and I always seen everybody else as the villain, because it wasn't something like, because like you got a character like Stacy who's almost like it's almost a juxtaposition of who Karis is. Like she was somebody that was caring and wanted better for the land and wanted better for her people. And then you got a person like Stacy who's a trained killer and is very primal, and when she goes after her, it's just like you don't know what to think. You know what I mean? Like it's like it was somebody who's it was something where I felt like if you watch it, you don't know what side to take, because there's a lot of people that are on opposite sides about oil and gas and mining. There's some very good people that are for it, and there's some very bad people that are for it. But there's also some, it's a huge gray area, and sometimes it brings employment, it brings a lot of stuff to the community, but it's like in the long run, you know what I mean? Like you can't drink oil, man. Like if it's taken away, from the water and sorry.
What really struck me too was like Ben, he's writing, he's like, but there's paid internships and you want me to be responsible. And like, you really captured that struggle where, it's like, we're, like they're indigenous, they're not getting a lot of opportunities. And then when they do, it's like at the cost of what, right? Like it's at the cost of the land, or like you have to give something up. So you kept that so well that it really kind of broke my heart. Yeah,
no, it was something that happened to me. Like I was kind of groomed. I worked for Royal Dutch Shell for 5 years, and it was something where I was making like $8 an hour. Would you like to come take 6 months training and start making $38 an hour? And you're kind of like, at the time my kids are young, and you're like, well, do I want to, eat the bare minimum, or do I actually want to feed my kids and clothe them? It's something that's so it's so bad. It's so bad because it's like it's something where
it's a real conflict, like an inner conflict that like people in our position growing up like have to deal with all the time. Like I got to follow my dreams and go to school for acting in far off places, but my brother he stayed in Saskatchewan and he worked for the rigs as well, and I was proud of him for having a career after he graduated from high school, and pulling his weight and all that stuff that people tell you you're supposed to do to be a contributing member of society. And it's just like, like I would never want a bloodthirsty monster to go after him for working at a oil rig, and if somebody did,
Yeah.
like I'd probably want to
Yeah.
hunt them down. So like, you know, but I don't really agree with him working at one.
Stacy
See,
with
Yeah.
perfect
Yeah.
casting.
Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
So
He doesn't
I
work on the rigs anymore, just so you know.
No?
Now he's an elevator builder now, another upstanding
Oh,
job. But
that's awesome.
yeah.
I do have to ask though, especially being a first-time director, Ruben, this
Mhm.
script is set in the winter, you know, and
Yeah.
it's hard filming a
Mm.
movie in normal weather. Okay, for your first time. Why did you tackle snow for the first try?
I thought it was gonna be warm. I like the winter before it was warm, and then when we actually were filming it went from like the warmest day was -36, and the coldest was -53, and we just didn't have any like we just didn't have any time. Like the scene that there's a scene where she's laying in there's a body and she's in snow and she's covered in blood, and it was -42 that day, and she was there for an hour. Like imagine having we couldn't use most of the blood that we had. We couldn't use because it would freeze before it even came out of the tube. Like when it started moving out of the tube, it would freeze. So we had to keep it by propane tanks a lot, and it would still freeze. So we had to start putting alcohol in there just to kind of like make it, but it wouldn't like most of the time it
Oh,
just wouldn't
wow.
freeze. So we ended up having like the effects guy had to put it under his shirt and keep it to his body, and then stand behind her and then just like squeeze it. So it was just all these things. Like I don't ever want to shoot in the winter again. Like I just don't. Like it was just like there's a lot of times like the camera would freeze and like it would work for 10, 20 minutes, maybe 10 minutes, then we'd have to go warm it up. It was just that plus 15 days of shooting. Like it just
Yeah, that was the thing. Like we didn't have any extra days to push stuff off, or you know, like if you started losing light, then you were just going to lose the day, and then you know maybe you could pick it up, maybe you couldn't, because we were also fighting the light, also being in the winter, and then like all of my scenes got pulled from several days later to the beginning of the shoot on that morning because it was -52 or something like that, and the cameras weren't working, so they had to bring all the interior scenes, you know, that were scheduled for like 3 days later, like bring it to the beginning. And I was like, oh my god, I was gonna go over these lines today, like I wasn't planning on filming them right now. Yeah,
like
it was,
5 pages of dialogue.
yeah, it was the most dialogue heavy day, and I was like, well, nothing like getting it over with, I guess. But yeah, it was kind of wild that way. You just have to be ready to pivot. It kept it exciting, I'll say that.
Yeah.
It was like, okay, like what crazy element are we gonna have to battle today?
It was like yeah, and never again. Like everything I'm writing is either inside or in the summer.
Where's your next
Summer.
It takes place in Hawaii.
Yeah, I wish. Once we get to that budget, right?
Yeah, it definitely adds that element though, like that there's an element of fear that is present with those extreme temperatures, and it's just always there. Like we didn't really have to act very much then, you know, because it's like I'm actually freezing to death if I don't say this line fast enough, then I'm, you know.
That was the thing too, right? Like it was like you were who was it? Somebody was practicing their breathing because of the cold. Like they'd be freezing and then they would go like and then they would say their lines, like they'd posture and say their lines, and then they'd have to go back in because it was just like they'd freeze, their lungs would be freezing or something.
It was
Like they would just have to
it's a
pace
lot
yourself.
like the face actually freezes, so enunciating's really hard, and then if you start to shiver, then that can start to feel like you can't control it, and you don't really want your lines to come out like with a quiver in your voice all the time necessarily.
I'm picturing Ruben at the pitch table. It goes, yeah, we're gonna make a film. How can we make it tougher?
Yeah. My
like
God.
18 days. No, 15 days.
That's
Yeah,
right.
let's do it 15. Let's do it.
Zero.
Get it
I'll
done.
see your 0 and go -36.
Yeah, because like
exactly.
I was just thinking about it, it's like every single scene that we did outside was it was freezing. Like it was just anytime, like even the scene when she's talking to I think it was like you're talking to Carla and you're talking about
Mhm.
Jocko, and it was just nuts. Like you guys were just sitting out there trying to pretend to be warm. It was nuts.
Yeah.
It was all acting. It was all acting not to be cold. Never
Mhm.
again. Never. But here's another thing. Like I was just thinking about because of the season, it was the only season in which I guess the spirit it's the only season that it's out. And I was just thinking about this other film that's coming out with the same spirit. Then it takes place during the summer, and I'm like, got it wrong.
Yeah.
Great. I'm happy about that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, something to do with antlers.
Really?
Nuts. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, I got it.
Yeah, yeah. I'm happy that they got everything so inaccurate. I mean, great filmmakers, but not great researchers.
I gotta say, I love the winter aspect of it because it adds an isolation level
Yeah.
to the film just by being in winter. And
Mhm.
I think it's
That's
amazing when anybody can film in the winter. I really do.
it was great, but the thing was is that the place that we were at, Camp Kiwanis, it was so ice. It was just we had everything there. Everything like we were location scouting and everything was so close. Like we had I think we had a quarter of a kilometer of road to shoot on. So it's the same road for like the whole
Every
film.
shot, just
And
different
it's just like
angles.
yeah, it's just like let's shoot it
Walk
differently.
this
Let's
way
get
through
a
the bush. Now walk this way
yeah,
through the bush.
yeah. Try not to make any tracks. And then it was just like all the housing, everything was just like maybe about 50 yards from each other. Everything was just right there. It was just like a reserve, basically. Like if you ever
Yeah, it did
been to a
look like
reserve, it's
one.
just no, it's just so spaced out. But that's also kind of like how every reserve is just so far off the beaten path that it just has that isolation to it. And
Isolation.
it's great.
Mhm.
Carolyn, any questions?
No, I think I'm good. Yeah, I just really loved it. I just thought, such great authenticity to everything. And actually, what you said about the spirit, like that just makes me, I don't know. I just always love Indigenous film, and like it's coming from an authentic source. It just makes me
Mhm.
happy, and also it's fitting because it's in Blood in the Snow, right? So
Yeah.
it's
Exactly. We did it
perfect,
just for
Yeah.
you guys.
for the
That's why
Oh
we
festival.
yeah.
shot in the winter.
Yeah, you
Be a
guys
poster
nailed
child
it.
for it.
There's definitely blood in the snow in this movie.
Oh yeah.
Yep,
Yeah, and
lots of it.
I can't wait till the poster comes out. Poster comes out this week, and then the trailer comes out next week. I just heard that today, like, and I can't wait to see them because like
I
it's so
love
we're
doing
so
these Q&As because I get to get all the inside scoop from Ruben.
yeah. Because I just kind of like
I'm like, ooh,
was I supposed to say that? I don't know.
it's too late.
Yeah, too late.
Well,
It's like
don't
I'm
worry.
yeah.
This actual podcast episode will probably be November-ish, maybe December-ish.
Okay.
So
Okay. Yeah, so
Yeah.
we're not ruining anything.
no,
Yeah.
all that other video stuff, that's the end of October. This stuff,
Nice.
so
So by now we'll be doing UK. So awesome.
perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
Was there okay, let me ask you guys a question. What was your favorite scene?
do you want to go first, Carolyn?
Yeah, I think what I mentioned before, the scene at the end where everybody's kind of trying to cover up what actually happened, and there's two different sides of the story. I really enjoyed that because it was funny and it was cute, but they had just gone through this horrific, like, showdown, and
Mhm.
then it just comes out, like, it just kind of wrapped things up really nicely. I think that's what I liked
Yeah.
about it. It was there's a little bit of humor in there, and like Stacy's face is covered in blood, and like, what happened? Oh yeah, I slipped. I think that was
Yeah. And the
that
weird
was perfect.
The weird thing was is that the reason that it took that note was because if they would have told them the truth about what happened and kind of like the truth about their beliefs, because they never really say anything. Like they don't say its name, they don't say the situation, they don't say what the spirit is. And if they tell him, then they're all going to the loony bin basically. But it's there, it's tangible, and they just fought it and he's seen it. And yeah, I guess that's the reason why they're allowed to have that conversation at that point.
That's awesome.
And
Mine
you?
is actually Sarah Lisa's first scene. As I said before, when I get scripting, I like to write strong female characters. And it's that scene where she walks out to the pickup and, has that discussion with the gentleman. Because that is like the perfect introduction for Stacy to let you know that she's not taking crap from anybody, and she will stand her ground. And I thought that was so well done in like 4 minutes. That was perfect.
Yeah, I like that scene. That's my favorite scene. Like I was like, man.
Me too, but for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
I'm glad that one made it through. A version of that made it through every draft. So I was like, yes, it's still there.
It was the one thing that whereas like this has to be in the film because this kind of like just shows who Stacy is. But like because in each different draft we had to kind of bring the violence down because it was like, yeah, she just went batshit crazy. Like I think
Quentin Tarantino.
I think it was worse than that.
Yes.
Well, it's a little more realistic though. That's the thing.
Yeah, because like she there's like two guys in that scene, and
like she
beat
would
the
have ended
shit
up
out
in
of both of
jail,
them.
not just losing her.
Yeah, that was the one. That was the one thing she kept on saying is like, if she really did that, she would be thrown in prison. It's like, yeah, but she's crazy, she's nuts, And it's kind of like, and the thing was like, man, they wouldn't, if that would have happened, like those two guys wouldn't have admitted that she kicked their asses,
Exactly.
really
do
badly.
a sequel where Stacy's in the loony bin.
Yeah.
It'd be like One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest.
Why did you give away the idea?
Why? Like that's the first time anyone thought of it. You guys can't steal it.
Thank you so much for being on the podcast. If there's ever anything in the future, like your future projects, please feel free to get a hold of us and come back on because we would love to chat with you some more.
I think it's going to happen a lot faster than it's going to happen a lot faster than I expected because I hand in the first draft next Friday.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Awesome.
Sweet.
All right. Well, for Bits Radio, this is Rob and Carolyn and Sarah Lace and Ruben.